listening to I Am Refocused Radio with your host, Shamaya Reed. This show is designed to inspire you to live your purpose and regain your focus. And now, here's your host, Shamaya Reed.
Hey, welcome to I Am Refocused Radio. We are here once again, and today we have another amazing show lineup for y'all. Today we have a special guest today, Felicity, and she is an author of Pieces of Me. She is going to share with us everything about her recently released book and also her amazing website, sheisyoumag.com. We're going to learn a little bit about her life, but also about what she's doing currently today. First and foremost, Felicity, I just want to say thank you for your time. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me here.
Man, I appreciate you being here. So first and foremost, before we even talk about your awesome book, Pieces of Me, that you recently released, it's an amazing memoir that, you know, it debunks the myth that there is a point of no return in life, and it champions the message that our life and healing are entirely within our control. So before we talk about that amazing book, share with the audience a little bit about your life story and what got you to where you are today.
Sure. So I am a childhood trauma domestic violence survivor. I witnessed my father at the age of 10 attempt to murder my mom. And then from there, he was out of the picture for 12 years. And my mom, God bless her, emotionally shut down. So we, 3 kids, I'm one of 4, but the oldest is about 11 years older. So there's 3 of us that are together. We 3 had to learn to raise ourselves, so to speak, and cope. And so to speak, we didn't have anybody to turn to or like counseling or anything like that. So in the book, I call it Lord of the Flies. Like it was just like we were all fending for ourselves, like on food and safety and security. Which was unfortunate, but that was my reality. And that grew me into who I am today. I stumbled upon many obstacles. I speak repeatedly in my book about generational trauma because my mom married a very abusive man, and seeing that and witnessing that and not having anybody teach me or grow me into a woman of what expectations I should have of a husband, I myself fell into the hands of an abusive husband. So there's a repeating pattern that I speak of when I speak of generational trauma. And that marriage was just chaos for, I want to say 11 years. He was a hardcore functioning alcoholic, bipolar. He attempted a couple times with suicide and things like that. And I did my best to protect my son from just witnessing the day-to-day abuse that would happen. It was more emotional and mental and financial. And then towards the end of the marriage, it became physical. And so when I preach to all my women out there that there is a chance, that we all have the chance to get out, we literally do. We all have the capability to reinvent ourselves and get out of these marriages. It's not a matter of, oh, but, or I wish, or if I had, because I literally left during a snowstorm with $45 to my name and a 7-year-old, because if I didn't, I would wind up dead. Because by then, my parents had passed away and I didn't have a safe house to go to anymore. So I knew I needed an escape plan. And I speak about that in my book on how I planned my escape plan and things like that. And I was working a $9 an hour job on top of it. So I found something very cheap to rent. And from there, that was the shift of the rebuilding. And so I'm a little harsh when I don't want to say harsh, but I'm very straightforward. I'm from Chicago. I'm to the point. And there is no I can't in my world when I speak to my clients as well, too, or when I speak to groups of women. I don't want to hear that, because where there's a will, there's a way. If you have faith in God, He'll make it possible. It's not going to be easy, but it'll be possible. And the amount of obstacles that I came across were put in my life, I truly do believe, to grow me into a strong woman, because I moved out. I felt safety. I felt security, only to lose my job. Right there is like one of the first obstacles, right? And I have my family and my ex-husband probably putting money on how long is this going to last before she winds up back on somebody's sofa, because that's how toxic my family was. And I just remember going, what the hell am I going to do? I've got rent to pay, bills to pay, just lost my job. And I'm a Reiki practitioner. I'm a healer. And I threw together the quickest Google page and had a friend take some quick pictures and threw it up. And you want to talk about him saving my keister? I was full, to the point to where I actually questioned going back to work, because my days were full. I was able to stay at home and be there with my son when he came home. I worked in the veterinary industry for 22 years, in and out. I mostly worked management positions, but I had a very good reputation. So I know that finding a job would be easy. And unfortunately, we needed benefits, right? We have to have health insurance and things like that. So I wound up finding another job very close to home and just started to rebuild. Just imagine, what do I want my life to look like? What does that look like? And then from there, you start building backwards. And I knew that I wanted to be where I am today the moment my parents passed away, because I knew there was a story in there. And that's when I started writing my book. And I am living proof that I am exactly where I wanted to be today. It was hard as hell. Like, I can't even get into like how challenging emotionally, physically, mentally, and spiritually it was to get to this spot. However, I believe in God, and I call him a he. Somebody else might call it source. Somebody else might call it a she, whatever. He's in this conversation, he specifically, I feel, put these obstacles in my way to grow my mindset, because now I look at obstacles as not a setback, but as a way of learning. And what can I learn from this? I don't fall back and say, I give up. There is no I give up. I want to say a couple of years ago, and it's in the book, I think I was on my deathbed. It was crazy. I had this weird, mysterious illness, AKA I ate street tacos in Mexico, which turned out to be parasites. But I mean, for like 4 months, I was sick, in and out of the hospital. And I can remember trying to build this business. And I've got a team of people depending on me. And I come from the old school of thought where there is no calling up. There is not showing up. If I don't show up, what is that going to teach them? That they don't have to show up. So I'm literally in the ER as the nurse is putting the catheter in on a Zoom meeting on my phone with my team, just pushing through.
And it sounds like you've been pushing through for a good while. And that's very powerful, what you've been through. Like, people say, you don't look like what you went through. You know, on the outside, you look like a very successful woman who's just killing it. But no one knows the behind the scenes that got you to where you are today. Touch down a little bit for people out there who might be discouraged about their current state, you know, because they have those big dreams. They want to make these things happen. But maybe they're fighting these old past
demons.
Yeah, demons. And touch on that, because not everybody sees the light right away. Sometimes it takes a little bit more time for them to be patient, knowing that, you know, this too shall pass, and they will eventually get through this storm.
Exactly. And I didn't see the light at first either. I trusted God's faith. I had total faith in him, and I trusted his plan. And so there's a part in the book where I kind of explain, like, I think of that movie with Denzel Washington where it's like post-apocalyptic and he's like walking the street by himself. That's how I felt the majority of the rebuild, the transformation, just me with this little light in a tunnel, not able to see the outcome yet, just trusting where he's guiding me, trusting these challenges, these obstacles. And so if you're struggling with that, I'm really going to tell you, you have to have some sort of faith-based system. I don't care what spirituality you decide to pick, but you have to tap into something higher than you, because that's going to be your saving grace for when, and we'll talk about it, when demons come to get you, because the devil does play games on us, flat out. And I am to the point to now, when my feet hit the floor, that runs. Like, there is no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Strong in your spirituality, because that's your foundation for success. Because when times get tough, what are you going to fall back on? You can't turn to mom and dad. You can't turn to your boyfriend, your husband, a friend, a therapist. You need to learn to turn in. That's where the strength comes from. Turn in. Because where is God's kingdom? It's in your heart. It's in your heart chakra. So that's what the number one thing is I always preach. When you can't see that light, it's not always going to be there. Eventually you will see it, but you got to turn within and see it there.
Listen, I Refocused Radio, talking to our guest today, Felicity Nicole, and her book, Pieces of Me. You can also visit her website. She is umag.com. And also for people who are listening, I mean, there is also humor in life. I think Guy's a comedian himself. He kind of lets us go through some things so that we can look back and like, wow, I'm glad I learned from that, page in the story. For you, when you look back and you see how far you came. I mean, we talked about your business, how you had to start that from scratch. What are some of the lessons you're like, man, I'm glad I learned that lesson, so I'm can be able to inspire people today with my story?
Anything is possible. I have minimal college education. I have no business degree, and I decided to build a brand. And I learned just through making mistakes and common sense. So some of the smartest things to do is to get yourself an attorney and start from there and build yourself a nice protection, because you always want to build your business backwards. That's the way I feel. I built it backwards. So everything is protected financially. The brand is protected from anybody trying to take it, things like that. So I applied for the branding, the trademarking, lots of contracts. I totally trust my attorney. And, some of the hiccups are, I'm going to tell you right now, everybody's out from what I have experienced, from what they can gain from you. So be prepared that as you continue to rise, people are going to want to leech on to your success. And remember, where were they when you were going through bad times? Where were you? Where were they when you were just Felicity, right? So that's one thing. Keep your awareness open. Keep your circle tight. Keep things that are bothering you with your business to your business mentors. I highly suggest that, because people like to gossip. And if you open up your mouth and maybe to the wrong person about that, this is going really not the way I intended to with my business, I don't think people realize that if the other person has an ill intention towards you, that's a form of energy. And so right there, they're pushing negative energy towards you because they're loving that. So be careful on what you share. I am very limited there to what I share and to whom I share it with, because just as a healer, as an empath psychic, I've experienced it. I've seen it. People want what they can get from you and how much they can take from you. And I've let everybody go at one point and said, this is going to be my show. This isn't your show. I've offered many opportunities for you for visibility and success, and you still want more, and we're done. So don't be afraid to be the boss. And you can do it in a very polite, well-mannered way.
I like how you put that, because it's easier said than done. So while you were going through your chapters and learning how to get over the old me, the old self, the limited thinking, the struggles, the trauma, what was some of the secret sauce that you developed to remind you that I'm bigger than this, that the future is now and it's up to me to make this happen.
Yes, that is so awesome that we can dive down this really fast here, because you're dealing with a gal, 46, who has been mentally and emotionally abused and eventually physically abused her whole entire life. So I obviously have complex PTSD, and I've had to go through tremendous amounts of therapy with multiple different types of therapists, including shamanic healing, in order to get to where I am because of those self-limiting beliefs. And those are what I speak about in the book on those archetypes, because we all have them. Carl Jung speaks about them as well too. So we all have these archetypes. And my archetype, that self-limiting belief, is the little girl who doesn't think that she's worthy of anything. And so I had to learn to reparent my little archetypes and keep them in the corner, because sometimes they would want to come out in places where, perfect example is networking events. I've got it together, I look great. And then all of a sudden it's like, whoa, I don't know if I can actually do this. They're not allowing me to feel good in the presence. So somebody was stealing my power, if that makes any sense. And the little one, the little archetype, just totally sucked in and withdrew. So I had to retrain. And so now she stays, I literally have taught myself how to just keep this at bay and allow my light to shine, because nobody will steal that from this point moving forward. Absolutely not.
And you mentioned earlier about your faith. How have you used that to kind of be your compass, so that way you don't go too far to this side or too far to that side? You kind of stay grounded.
Yes. I give it all to the man upstairs. I mean, he put me on this road for a reason. He gave me this life for a reason. And I think it's to teach others that we have the possibility to change our lives. We have the possibility to heal. We have the possibility to forgive those who have caused most harm. And that's all because of just because of God. I owe it all to him. And so, I've got my spiritual practices. I, give my prayers in the morning, at night. And as I continue to grow and as we have wins, as I'm having wins, I will tell you the first thing I will say is stay humble. I think of that Tim McGraw song, Humble and Kind, actually. Because one of my biggest wins was I think I went international bestseller in 4 different countries in under a month, and number 1 for women's memoirs, international bestseller in 3 countries. And that's pretty impressive for under a month, for nobody knowing who I am. And so right away it was just like, okay, stay humble and absolute gratitude, and how I can serve him. What else can I do to serve you? Because as that, I think it's an energy exchange. I'll do this for you. So my next book is actually, I'm in the process of writing, is called The Higher Consciousness Approach to Forgiveness. Because I have been able to forgive my family and my ex-husband. I have no contact with my family. I love them dearly. But there's, I speak on that, how to overcome all of that in the next book.
Man, that's awesome. Man.
Yeah.
I can't wait to read that one. But I want to focus in on the title, Pieces of Me, because as you find yourself writing this book, reflecting on how you started to rebuild your whole life piece by piece, and presenting something to someone else who may feel like they themselves too are broken, they trying to gather their pieces and rebuild their life. What do you hope listeners can learn from your personal experiences so that they can empower themselves to also rebuild themselves?
Sure. I would say start slow. Take your time and learn to have patience. Start with affirmations and journaling. Explore who you are, what you want. Who was the woman prior to? You have to reconnect to that. And what you most deeply desire out of life. And does it feel like it's in alignment with your true self? Because we have to, if you're in alignment with your true self, things will just fall into place. But if you're not, that's where you're going to see a lot of breakdowns happen. I started with affirmations. I had Post-its hidden everywhere, and I would repeat those daily. And I would meditate. YouTube I turned to. I didn't have a community to turn to, and that's where She Is You comes into play. I turned to YouTube meditations to begin to build up my courage just to leave my ex-husband. And then I turned to healing practices. I became a Reiki practitioner and a woman's circle, just that support, that little sense of community. Women, we need community. And that's where the brand then kind of comes into play. Is I built that brand, She Is You, which is a community for midlife women that are seeking healing and reinvention through a community atmosphere, because I didn't have a place to turn to necessarily like that. And so this is where this comes into play. And therapy, and just take your time. Take your time. As long as your safety is okay, that there's no physical harm going on and you feel safe within the space, take your time, start stashing some money, and just start rebuilding yourself with affirmations. And you'll slowly start to see yourself change. It was funny. One of the biggest things that I noticed was when I was going through my transformation, I didn't know how to do my hair and makeup. Like I had literally for 12 years or whatever, I just like stopped taking care of myself. And so I can just remember sitting in the mirror in my new home. How do I put on mascara again? I mean, just something that comes so natural to us as women, because we do it when we're teenagers and when we're in the workforce. And I've always been hair and makeup. I mean, you can see it now. I mean, that's always been me. But for a good long decade, I had lost that part of me. And so it was foreign to me. But yet it was exciting to learn how to feel beautiful again. And so it's funny because I'm doing these, I have one set up for September in the Chicagoland area. I'm doing these glow up days, which is all about making women feel beautiful. I hire a photographer, makeup and hair, and I tell them, bring a t-shirt, classic white t-shirt and a pair of jeans, it costs this much money. And we're going to make you look beautiful inside and out. And it's always nice to have a beautiful picture of yourself. And I like people to feel good.
I like how you said earlier how you said the keyword foreign to me. And I feel like that is relatable to anyone who is listening to this, because whatever you are striving to be in the future, you're not that person yet right now. So everything that you meet 10 years from now, you're still in work in progress. So all those blessings and big opportunities in the future is foreign to that person. What kept you motivated to put in the work? And like you said earlier, be patient, so that way you're not rushing the timeline, but you're allowing things to flow as they are meant to be.
Yes, that's one of my life lessons is patience, because there are some points where I try to rush the timeline and then things would blow up. I know he would give you a hard stop. Perseverance, plain and simple. I get the image of the Greek mythology, Sisyphus just pushing that rock up that hill, because that's what it feels like. And those are those moments where you're going to want to give up, but just keep pushing it, keep having faith. Perseverance and determination. I am a strong-willed, stubborn Hispanic woman. So maybe that's a benefit to me. I don't know. But I have just kept pushing and pushing and pushing. And come hell or high water, I will become the person that I know I was meant to be, the woman that I was meant to be, not the one that I was groomed into be. And that's the key that I put in the book. Because sometimes family dynamics will groom us into what they want us to be. And I knew I was much better than it.
That was a drop mic moment there. Yeah. Become the person you were meant to be, not the person you were groomed to be. That's powerful. And we have to hopefully have you on the feature when you have your next book drop because, man, you dropping bars all through the interview today. And I appreciate that because I think so many people out there, I feel like they want so much. They just don't know how to do it. And they feel like they're all about themselves and only their life is terrible. And that's not the case. A lot of people that these individuals look up to, including myself, we're seeing the top 10 plays of people's lives. You know, we're not seeing the practices that they had to go through. We don't see the games that they lost. We just kind of see them fast forward and we see a highlight reel. But until we go back in time and see those down times and those valleys that they had to survive, we won't really understand fully that we are in that process.
Yeah.
Go ahead. I mean, cut you off.
No, your power will be shut off. You will fall. You will get fired. I mean, seriously, I can't tell you how many times. It's just keeping that long-term vision in mind and keep pushing through. And you do whatever you have to do to survive, right? Right? That's how we're made. And it's key. Key is getting outside that victim mentality. And that's what I'll tell a lot of. I work with men too, mostly women, but I'll work with men too. It's like, you're in victim mode. Pull yourself out. And that's that Chicago in me. Like, I don't play games. Like, you're a victim. Pull yourself out of that. Woe is me does not work with me. Hold yourself accountable for your part in the relationship or whatever you're doing. Pick yourself up. Now, how do we move forward?
And with that mindset, I mean, I already know you're going to be doing big things. It's said in my notes that this could be a movie. I think it definitely could be a movie. Your life can be a movie because, I mean, it's powerful because you chose to let go and to embrace your future self. And I feel like in a lot of ways, that's the hardest thing for a lot of people to do, is to let go and embrace who they're meant to be.
Walked away from everybody. My family, my ex-husband, it's just my son and I. Now I'm remarried, but like, I walked away so that I tell a lot of people, what are you willing to sacrifice? Because sometimes you got to sacrifice a lot. Yeah.
Man, dropping bars again, man. I like that because I feel like that is so real and authentic to observe. And that is, everything that is great has a price on it. So what are you willing to pay to have that greatness? And that greatness is defined by the individual. It's not defined by the society that culture you live in. It's you. So if someone gave you a blank check, what would you pay yourself? And I'm not saying that's money, all about money, but just like the value of yourself. Because a lot of times we don't value our own self. We determine our value based on what others see us as, not what we see ourselves. So for you, last question is, when it comes to seeing your own value that you are able to have to contribute to this world, how long did it take for you to notice that and pursue it?
Quite a while. I would say probably a good 7 years before I realized, I'm actually worth something more than what I thought I was worth. We don't realize we play those stories in our head. So simple. It flies out of our mouth. We don't even realize we're saying it. Oh, no, I can't afford that. Right there. That's a money mindset. So it took me a while to change that.
Well, once again, man, had a true honor talking to our guest today, Felicity, Nicole. You can go to her website, sheisyoumag.com. Make sure you get her book, Pieces of Me. You can get it on Amazon, anywhere you can find a book. I want to say once again, thanks to you, Felicity, for taking time talking to us today.
I appreciate it. This has been a blast.